Okay, the political blogs are exploding with talk on the left and the right after Senator John McCain nabbed his second win of the presidential race. How far will the voters take him? And Senator Barack Obama is getting a lot of flack for seemingly complimenting the Republican Party. Joining me now, Pam Spaulding, author of the liberal blog, Pam's House Blend, and conservative blogger Mary Katherine Ham from townhall.com. Good to see you both, ladies, and as always, feel free to sort of, leave me out of the conversation and go back and forth and talk amongst yourself here. Hey, Mary Katherine, let me start with you. John McCain, after the victory in South Carolina last night, is he the front runner?
You mean we're not talking about playoffs tonight?
Not yet, not yet. We'll get there.
Yeah, I think, McCain and Hillary both are banking on the fact that 2 wins finally means they're frontrunners, because 1 certainly didn't. So here we go from here. McCain certainly won with military voters in South Carolina, but it does not mean that he's this big consensus juggernaut now by any means. In 2000, his vote total was much larger. It was much smaller this time, and the regular conservative / evangelical vote was split between Fred and Huck, which is a lot of the reason he came out on top.
Hey, Pam, what do you think?
Oh, I absolutely agree. I think that this anybody but Huckabee campaign is trying to gain momentum. That's what we are seeing here. Because that vote is split, I think you would have seen a very interesting race in South Carolina. I think you might have seen a Huckabee win had Fred Thompson not been part of that race.
That's interesting. And John McCain says he has broad-based Republican support. He said that just a moment ago to our Dana Bash. Mary Katherine, what do you think? Do you agree with that?
Well, conservatives are not on board with the McCain show. They have not ever. It's been a long time since we've loved McCain, but it's a long, troubled relationship. But I think, people respect him. He's obviously a war hero. He's a good guy. He's got a lot of experience. And there is some buzz about the fact that he could, be a good matchup for Hillary. So although he bugs us, we're not afraid to watch him, wipe the floor with Hillary at a debate or something like that. So that would be fun.
Oh, whatever.
Oh, whatever. Hey, Pam, how about this from the exit polling in South Carolina? Where are my glasses? I need my glasses here. 8 in 10 of those voting yesterday called themselves Republicans, yet just 3 in 10 voted for McCain. When we get to the place where independents can't really sort of go their own way here, what does this mean for John McCain when he has to win conservatives, Republicans?
Well, he's in a world of hurt. I mean, I think in certain states this is going to be problematic in the general. But as he's still got to prove something. He won in South Carolina. He won that heavy independent vote. And he's still got something to prove. It really is going to be interesting on Super Duper Tuesday.
Last word on this before we turn to the Democrats, Mary Katherine?
Well, I mean, nothing's being settled. That's the beauty of this primary season. Apparently, more than 2 states are going to get to choose the nominees this time.
That the voters will actually get to play and make some decisions here and take it out of the hands of the pundits and, dare I say, the bloggers. Okay, to the Democrats now. Let's see, let me see if I can phrase it this way. You lose in New Hampshire, you lose the overall race in Nevada. How confident do you feel if you're Barack Obama going into South Carolina, and how important is tomorrow's debate, Pam?
Oh, well, I think the debates are also very critical when you're winding your way down to a primary right in front of one. I think that it's going to be interesting to see where the black vote goes. I think that the signs out of Nevada were troubling for Hillary Clinton.
And Michigan as well, wouldn't you say? Yeah.
Yes. So I think that's a factor, and I think we're going to get a good look at whether or not the Bradley effect is truly in play.
Now, what is that? Remind us again of what that is.
That is when white voters go to the polls, and in entrance polls, they say they may vote for the black candidate, but when in fact they close that curtain, they vote for the white candidate.
Wow. Mary Katherine, what do you think?
Well, Obama's already shown himself to be a winner in an overwhelmingly white state in Iowa. And in New Hampshire, I would add, in the exit polls, they actually didn't underestimate or overestimate Obama's support. They underestimated Hillary. So I don't know what that means, but it's not exactly a Bradley effect. So we'll see what happens. But I think Pam's right that the black vote is going to be huge in South Carolina. She was getting 8 of 10 coming into Vegas, 8 of 10 black voters. Yeah. And it's really going to make a difference in South Carolina. And that racial politics dust-up between Obama and Hillary last week is not going to help.
That was at all.
Yeah. Well, what did you think of that? I thought that ended up being much, Pam. I thought it ended up being much ado about nothing. But look, you talk to folks every day, probably more than I do. What did you think of it?
Well, I think all of this dialogue of sort of racial-tinged charges and sort of backbiting comments that have that flavor to them really ruins the discourse and takes away time that we should really be spending on talking about policy and differences between the candidates. And the real problem is our country does not have the difficult discussions about race that we need to have when it's not, the stakes aren't as high as they are now.
Mary Katherine, it felt like this was an attempt by surrogates, by Hillary herself, to pull Barack Obama into a discussion about where do you stand on issues? Where do you stand on issues important to?
Well, I mean, this is a huge issue. I think part of the problem is that, you know, we've become so hypersensitive about race that it's hard for anyone to talk about it without being accused of being a racist. So that's part of the problem.
Yeah, but doesn't that feel silly? And at the end of the day, doesn't that feel silly?
Well, yes, it does. But I think that the Democrats and the press, to a large degree, have been instrumental in creating that attitude.
Right.
And so,
and the consultants,
it's
don't
hard
forget
to talk
them.
about. Yeah, well, and these are surrogates, but you have to take responsibility for what your surrogates are doing as well.
Yeah. Hey, Pam, great to talk to you. Mary Katherine, it's always great having you on the program.
Thank you
know
very
that.
much.
And back to the football games. We'll talk about the results of the games next week. Have a great Sunday, ladies.
Have a good one.
Still to come in the newsroom.